Let the record reflect the board came out of closed session at 7:04 p.m. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to Board and Superintendent Communications. Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start off by handing out some copies of, and we just ran a couple of copies, not the whole magazine. This is the Converge magazine. It's produced by the Center for Education Technology, and every year they recognize individuals that are moving forward, individuals and districts that are moving forward with technology, and I want to give a huge shout out to Rob Dixon. The Center for Ed has recognized Rob and I as Team Omaha as top 30 technology transformation folks, so it's a cool honor, and I'll give the credit much more to Rob than I. But the article that's in the national publication is included here, so you can see a picture of an old guy and an attractive young guy, Rob Dixon, who's in there next to me, and it talks a little bit about where we've been on this technology journey, where not only do we have the first ever virtual school in the state of Nebraska, but we also have added high-speed wireless throughout the district. Mr. Dixon, you might want to raise your hand as the person who really led so much of this work. We also worked with Microsoft to create the first data collection tool for observations that now is going to be utilized across the nation. And there's multiple other pieces too, but again, it's just a great signal of where we are today versus where we were, which is a phenomenal thing to be a part of. And I also wanted to share with the board that we were in the Wallace Foundation meeting, Melissa Comine, Dr. Kerberg, and I, and Commissioner Matt Bloomstead last week to discuss how we were going to use the new NCLB, ESAW, and how we're going to utilize those funding and what the national group wants us to look at with leadership development. Omaha was selected out of all the districts across the United States. There were only 5 districts represented there to look at what we're doing with leadership development and how federally they want to move more in that direction. So it was a great honor, and we were well represented by Dr. Kerberg and Melissa Comine, who I believe is at the back. So, and that process is not done. They've asked us to also serve to continue to consult the Wallace Foundation. And by the way, they did pay for all of us to go down there. The foundation did. We did not use district funds for that, but it was a great opportunity for us to meet some other districts and talk with them about what they're doing, and then look at what we're doing. And I have to tell you, when I walked out of there, I felt pretty proud of Omaha Public Schools, and I felt pretty proud of the work that we've done in just under 4 years, and the progress we've made. It's pretty impressive. So I'm fortunate to work with great people that really are moving us in a good direction. And the last thing, and you're going to have to forgive me, I'm going to read from a document, which I don't do that much. I'm typically more bullet points and ad-lib with those bullet points, but I think in this case I feel a sense of obligation to make sure I mention everything. This evening I want to share an official announcement with the Board of Education and with the public. For the past few months, my wife Stacy and I have been discussing the health of our elderly parents who live quite a bit away from us, and to be honest, we've had a difficult time seeing them, and most recently my mother-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it's been one of our challenges that we've been working through. And as a result of that, I've just shared with the Board of Education in closed session that I intend to retire at the end of this school year. Additionally, I believe this is a good time to begin this transition with board elections taking place next month. I wanted to make this announcement as soon as I could to allow for the board to begin the process of searching for my successor, as well as to allow the new board time to work together on that selection. I want the public, I want the district staff, I want this great community to understand how much difficulty this decision's been. A lot of prayer, a lot of thought. Stacy and I love it here. We absolutely love this community. It's our adopted home, and we can't thank the staff, the board supporters, the OPS community supporters. We can't thank them enough. The journey we've been on for nearly 4 years has just been phenomenal, and one that I absolutely treasure and will treasure for the next 8 to 9 months. It's hard to believe how fast these 4 years, nearly 4 years, have gone. When I first interviewed for the job, it was clear to me that the district just needed alignment, focus, collaboratively developed goals, a clear vision, because it was also easy to see that Omaha was a great community filled with quality people and a district filled with quality staff and quality young people. Year one was dominated by efforts to develop our first ever strategic plan and all the correlated goals. It was also the beginning of a district reorganization with the focus on supporting schools, building level leadership, and by year two we were moving staff from central office to buildings, shifting the focus to school support with high expectations. We were also deep into the development of a bond initiative, the first in a decade and a half, that would address long-term inequities and move technology into the 21st century. I think we got a little bit of evidence that we made great progress there. The 2-to-1 passage of the largest bond issue in Nebraska history has allowed us to move ahead with significant advances, including classroom technology and later the first ever K-8 virtual school. The list of improvements is long, but more importantly has been the growth in student achievement. The highlight has also been the reduction in the achievement gap, and most recently, and something I'm most proud of, the growth in our schools that were persistent low achievers. While the journey isn't over, we're definitely on the right path for our students and for our community. I have to admit it's been an intense journey with nonstop work for staff, board, and many others. And I know for me it's a 60-plus hour work week with little time for family or even vacation breaks. Again, I want to thank the staff who have helped us get here. The work you do every day for our students and families cannot be undervalued. Thanks for coming to the door every day, willing to help fulfill our district's mission. I appreciate each of you, the hard work you do every day for our kids. I'm confident we're headed in the right direction. Our student success indicators continue to improve. We now have a system in place that will enable even greater success this year and in the future. I'm anxious to assist with the leadership transition over the next 8 months. As the transition process begins, we'll work to keep you informed about the status and important information. We will work to share information about ways you can stay informed and ask questions in the days and weeks to come. For the media, I will be here if you have questions afterwards or anything that you'd like to ask of me. And again, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful district and being a part of this amazing journey that really is just beginning. And I have no doubt that there'll be a successful search and that there'll be a successful transition to my successor and that we'll continue on this great journey with great success. So thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Board. I, again, thank everyone in the audience, and I look forward to the next 8 to 9 months as we move forward. And again, we're going to make great strides, so I'm confident in that. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Are there board members who have any comments at this time? Okay. So what I would like to say is thank you very much for your service to us for the last 4 years. You still have to finish this year, though. So you've still got it. Most of the year is still ahead of us, and we have lots of achievement that I know that we'll accomplish because we've already accomplished so much. For the staff, we wouldn't be as successful as we are without all of you. And so even though I know this is a disappointment to hear this news, we know and we can count on you to get us to the next level. And I'm confident that this board will take the actions it needs to find the next superintendent for this district. So I'll be working on putting together a committee, and we'll be setting up a timeline, and we'll figure out what input looks like and all of those issues that are surrounding a superintendent search and exactly how that will go. So we'll give the board some time to clearly, all of us, digest and figure out what's next. But we acknowledge that we have fantastic students, just like we saw here this evening, fantastic and wonderful quality families, and a great staff that has held all of us together for so many years, and for whom I'm very, very grateful. And I know that the superintendent is too. So we thank you for your leadership and the change that has happened, and we know that you've worked lots and lots of hours and been a part of lots of sessions on changing the environment, and we certainly have a culture today that is different than it was a few years ago, and I'm sure it'll even be different as we move forward. So thank you so much for all of your service to this district. Ms. Williams.
Mr. Evans, I just want to personally say thank you for being the inspiration for 52,000+ students in our district. I get to see you every month in a classroom in our district, mentoring our young people. I've seen you out at community events with our community leaders, and just very saddened. You mean a lot to this district, and you mean a lot to a lot of people in this community. But I know that you didn't make this decision lightly. And like Luann said, we have to finish this year and find someone to take this district to the next level. But we've almost have our plane built that we've been flying for 4 years. And so as we look for the new pilot of our plane, I just want to personally say on behalf of my family as well, that we appreciate the work that you've done here. You have taught us many things and with all of your experience. And so I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege to let you know that. So thank you.
Ms. Sunderwood?
I'll just keep it short and sweet, but I was disappointed to hear that you'll be leaving. I think the district is definitely headed in the right direction. I think consistency is always really important, but I have to point the finger at myself when I say that as well, since I won't be running again. But we've implemented a lot of change in the last 4 years under your leadership, and I think we can all feel good about that. I think you should feel good about that. I think it's change for the better. I know that you put in a lot of hours, and I understand that it's a big job. So I'm confident that, we'll head down the right process to find the next person that's right, and just keep it going. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, it's been a great 4 years. We've accomplished a lot, and our students are certainly moving forward. We appreciate that. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to public comment. Oh, I'm sorry, board reports. I apologize. Ms. Merica?
I'm not the only person that has notes written down. Just wanted to give an update on a couple of things that I was able to attend out in the community. I know hopefully other board members who were there will talk more about it, but I was able to on Friday morning go to the groundbreaking for the new JP Lord building, which I am excited to watch be built over the next couple of years, because it's just going to be truly a world-class facility that other districts can use as an example. On Saturday, I was able to, with Ms. Godding, go to the Lights On After School event at UNO, which is essentially a celebration for our after-school providers. And it was really fun to see. I think there were over 1,300 kids there, learning about the different opportunities that are available for after-school opportunity, and to give out some awards to providers and to some senators who have helped for the first time supply funding from the state for those activities. And I also got to speak at an MBA class at UNO and tell them a little bit more about serving on boards and running for office and just talking about civic engagement and being involved in the community, which was really fun to try to encourage them to take that next step after they graduate to get involved as well.
Ms. Williams?
So I was able to attend a CUBE conference, which is the Council of Urban Boards of Education, which is associated with the National School Boards Association, and I am the OPS delegate. And so we spent a very intense weekend talking about social justice issue and racial equity. And so had Glenn Singleton speaking, Mr. Luaru, and so we need to touch base. Had some great conversations about the work that you're doing here in the district around equity and diversity, and how we begin to have a real conversation. And so was very excited to have that conversation with him, as well as the infamous Jim Brown, who is doing a lot of things around young black men in the community and getting them out of gangs, as well as Dr. Cornell West, have a lot of great insight and connections to pass on with our Office of Equity and Diversity Office, Mr. Sharif Luaru, sitting over there. We also had the conversation of transgender policy also came up in this conference, and it was really nice to have a conversation with like boards across the country, having these intense conversations about these issues that matter to our students. But I did want to say to the public that the resounding thing that came from every speaker, every superintendent, every board member that sat on a panel was the work that we do, we need to put students first. And that as adults, sometimes we need to listen to our students. It was very resounding, and with Mr. Evans' resignation today, the other point was, having your boards and your superintendent working collaboratively. And so there was just a lot of great information. I'm very blessed to have been there, and very excited to also work with Mr. Luaru, but also bring to the policy committee some equity policies that were gifted to us to share and have that very courageous conversation about race and all of the things that are going on in 21st century America. Oh, and a point of, you were going to not let me forget. Point of personal privilege, my daughter, Miss Brianni Jones, was crowned the Central High Homecoming Queen on Saturday, and so I'm very proud of her. She is very active in our district. She sits on Mr. Luaru's Voices Council. She's in DECA. She is modeling. She's an athlete, varsity champion. So just an amazing young lady and a product of OPS. And so I just wanted to take a personal privilege to give her a little bit of shout out and tell her how proud of her I am. And this is what OPS is about, is to see our students excelling, the whole child, well-rounded, everything we could ask. So congratulations, Brianni.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Snow.
Thank you, Madam President. I also had the opportunity to attend the CUBE conference. There was a common theme around this conference, which I would say the previous conferences that I attended did not have, and it was challenging school board members to go outside of playing the status quo and playing it safe just to keep their positions, but to really advocate for the students that we have in our district. Every student, like Ms. Williams said, our transgender students are having equity all the way to the core and making sure that you're in lockstep and create policies, but also execute those policies so they don't just sit on a shelf. And one of the things that was very powerful was Glenn Singleton, and he brought up his plan, and he really challenged a lot of school board members in the room. I could tell, I mean, the entire room was probably, how many people you would say, Yolanda, in there? Probably about 300? I'm really bad on that.
There's probably, total with everyone there was probably about 450 through the conference.
So half of he's in there, he's challenging school board members on current things that our kids are dealing with in day-to-day life. And you can see certain board members that they were cringing in their seats or they were turned off from the beginning. But that's the job of a school board member, is to advocate for what's best for the students that they serve. Not what's best for individuals or someone else's agenda. It's what's best for the students that are there, and to put your hand out there, to put your heart out there, to make sure that whatever you do, you leave it all out there. I guarantee you every board member here isn't making a decision to save their seat to be reelected. It's one of the things that I think that's the reason why our board has made a lot of tremendous work. We've done a lot of tremendous things with Mr. Evans. Our first thing that we got in, we raised the minimum GPA requirement for extracurricular activities. That was very powerful. And then the transition with our executive directors, that takes a school board and a superintendent willing to make tough decisions. Are you going to agree on everything that you're going to do? No, but the one thing that you will agree on is that we wanted to take our school district from here to here, and I think we did that.
Okay, are there any other comments? So to echo kind of what Ms. Merrick said, I too was at the J.P. Lord, and I want to thank Mrs. Fay for the great comments that she had in just kicking off the groundbreaking for that. She's been a significant advocate for JP Lord, for the students, for the families there, and I just really appreciate that, and we look forward to having her come back when the building is opened and the ribbon cutting happens, because it's going to be a phenomenal facility. I know I talked to the folks from Jacobs, and I think there's only one other one like it in the world, and maybe I think it was London. So we're pretty excited about what's happening here in Omaha with that. I had the opportunity to speak at the Collective for Youth event, and Lacey's right, there were 1,300 kids, and talking to 1,300 kids in a gym and seeing if anyone's listening to anything you said. I'm not sure, but it's a great event, and it's a great opportunity for us to thank all of the volunteers who are working with our students. And I think what surprised me most was to discover that Omaha is different and Nebraska is different than a lot of other places. I sometimes forget that we have the most, I think, phenomenal volunteers in the country. And so it was pretty impressive to see those volunteers there and to see them working. I also had the opportunity to meet with a group of Boy Scouts who will be coming to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance at a future board meeting. Just a phenomenal little group of fifth graders who had a lot of inquisitive questions and were actually very perceptive and very curious about public service. So I told them I'm sure we're going to see some of them in the future in public service, and I look forward to that. If there are no other board comments, then we will move on to public comment. So this evening we have 7 speakers who are coming before us, and what I would like to remind everyone is that our policy 8346 limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect the time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when there's 1 minute left and when there's 30 seconds left. When you come forward, if you would please say your name, spell your name, and give us your address, that would be great. And I will go ahead and share who will be next to speak so you can be prepared to come up. So our first speaker this evening is Gwen Easter. And after Ms. Easter, we have Charlene Edmondson. So go ahead and come forward, and Mr. Ray will keep you informed.
Good evening. My name is Gwen Easter, Gweneaster. I live at 2895 Benny Street. I'm coming before the board tonight to speak about this form that was provided to parents on on Monday, September 26th. Your statement said there have been several community groups disseminating information regarding what is and is not in the curriculum. We want to make sure at OPS parents have accurate information regarding what is being taught in the OPS Human Growth and Development curriculum. There were 3 attachments to that email, and one of the attachments was a side-by-side comparison of the language used by outside organizations versus the accurate OPS curriculum information column. For the record, I am here to tell OPS parents that the 7 points that you used to set the record straight were created by Nebraska's for Founders values. Our research team includes parents, grandparents, retired teachers, and counselors, school counselors. Collectively, they performed hundreds of hours of research. The OPS HGD pacing guide given to them on June 15th during a meeting with 3 OPS administrators. Our NFFV team continued to reference the online version of the OPS HGD pacing guide, which had no changes made to it until their collective work was published in a document called A Sampling of Content in the OPS Human Growth and Development Curriculum. Our work was vetted by an attorney to ensure accuracy before it was published and shared with citizens in the community. We are here to say that our document was only a sampling representing some of the sexual explicit instructions and content of the FY curriculum. Some means small percentage. To compare some to an iceberg, our first publication contained only a small part of the iceberg that is seen above the waterline. As you teach in the OPS science classes, most of the iceberg is below the waterline. You have hundreds more sexual explicit examples below the waterline in the rest of the AFY material. You need to be worried about explaining to OPS parents why these sexual explicit contents were also not purged from the curriculum in your September 26th email blast of this documentation. I also want to share that I had requested to know how many transgender students and that was a part of the OPS public school systems, because we've seen no data that this is a great need for, like, the bathroom changes and all these issues that you all are changing. And I would like to see how many kids are actually transgender in our community that you're pushing so much about these bathroom changes. I also want to make it very clear, because there are people who are wanting to label us as hating gay people and transgender people. I do not hate gay people, and I do not hate transgender kids or adults, and I want to make that very clear. I do not agree
1 minute.
with Omaha Public School systems. I think that we need to stick to abstinence, and I will say this, that the good example of sticking to abstinence and encouraging our kids not to have sex, that is the best thing that we could do for children, as a result of seeing what happened on this last week with the baby and the young 16-year-old. You know, we have to pray for them, and we have to help this child through this. But I really want to say that abstinence is the best
30
answer
seconds.
for this, and we need to lift that family and those children up, that child up. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene Edmondson, and after that, John Dockery.
Good evening. My name is Charlene Edmondson, and I live at 5068 North 165th Street. And tonight, I need your help with a few questions. After I read the September 26th email blast that was sent out to Omaha Public School parents, I'd like to address the following thing. The e-blast did not provide any removals for the sentence, which currently requires the teachers in the curriculum advocates for youth. It did not say anything about the intent to remove the filter so that the websites can be seen by students. And I went to the website and I looked at the form that the teachers are directed in Advocates for Youth. The teachers are directed to, before they do the class, they're supposed to go to the IT department and have the filter removed so that they can gain the information that they need and the tools that they need to teach this curriculum. And I guess I'm wondering if there's a filter for the kids to not get to it, why would the teachers be using it as a tool? So that's one question I have. And then secondly, I would like to know the name of the filter system that Omaha Public Schools uses. And then thirdly, you may or may not know the answer to this, but I would like an answer if you could do the research on it. There is, in Advocates for Youth, there's a YouTube channel, and the name of the YouTube channel is Amaze, and I looked at some of those videos in there. Would someone from the board please do some research and get back to us and let us know? We haven't seen what videos you're going to be using. So if somebody could let us know about that. Some of the stuff was good on there, but one in particular was very bad, and so if we could have someone get back to us and let us know if anybody's going to be using the Amaze video. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ray, can you follow up with curriculum and provide the answer to Mrs. Edmondson and also tell the board? Thank you. Mr. Dockery. And after Mr. Dockery, Pastor Eileen McCarty.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Dockery. I live at 8616 North 57th Street. At recent board meetings, board members have complained about the same people testifying. We try not to say the same things and respect your time. We represent a lot of people other than ourselves who appreciate us putting our necks on the line to speak out for the safety of our children. Promoting immorality in public schools is never going to be acceptable for many people, and we represent those whose jobs or businesses won't allow them to speak out publicly. I just go right to, what we're here about is this e-blast that was sent out a week or so ago, which seems to be, it's kind of a feeble attempt, in my mind anyway, the information that's in here, but it seems to be an attempt to create the whole misinformation issue again, which was used against us last year at the open forum when we had 1,500 people here. At that time, we spent a lot of time researching, or it was supposed to be the flash curriculum, and it was changed at the forum. And at any rate, what's come out here is, and then after the forum last year, we were accused of having all these people there because they had been misinformed, basically. Well, this is another attempt in sending out this, critiquing some of the content that we had put out with some of the conferences that we had done with different people, and it's also in a post that is done by the Archdiocese of Omaha here recently. So rather than getting into all the details of the information, it's just another attempt to say, hey, these people don't know what they're doing, when we spent an awful lot of time researching the curriculum ourselves in order to make sure that the information that we were putting out there was correct. The only other thing that I would say is that the opt-out forms and the opt-out procedure really needs to be more available, I think, to parents on an ongoing basis, because once these classes start, a lot of parents aren't really that familiar with what's in there, but as they get negative feedback from their kids and whatnot, they may want to opt out, at a different time, or they may have opted in, but after they've seen what's going on, they may want to opt out. So that's one thing that, like in this e-blast here, it would have been nice if you to just put the opt-out forms right in there so that people had access to them. But I guess the last thing I'd like to say is I'm just really proud of all of the ministers that we had down here a couple weeks ago that testified as far as how this program is just an affront to people's Christian faith. This program is not about helping others and preventing STDs. It's a direct attack on Christian values. Its goal is to create a valueless society. It teaches sexual freedom and destroys families, making them even more dependent on government. So I would like to just conclude by saying that I'm just really proud to be Catholic, and that our Archdiocese has taken a stance on this, asking parishioners to either send their kids to public or to private schools, parochial schools.
1 minute.
Or homeschool them, or at least opt them out of this OPS sex education program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pastor Eileen McCarty. And after Pastor McCarty,
Good evening.
Sorry, we have Catherine Russell.
Good evening. Pastor Eileen McCarty, EILEENMCCARTY. I live at 3615 Hoctor Boulevard. I come to you tonight to speak to you. I'd like to revisit the comments of March, April, and May OPS board meetings. The OPS administrators shared their progress in these meetings in defining the curriculum content with OPS board members. OPS administrators stated infrequently that abstinence is always stressed in their lesson plans. Unfortunately, only by reading the new curriculum does a parent even discover that OPS has changed the definition of abstinence from restraining from an action to any sexual activity that does not end up in a pregnancy or an STD. The definition of abstinence, and has always been, becomes these permissible and allowable actions. Abstinence is to refrain from, not to allow. The actions that are in your plan are masturbation, joint masturbation, laying nude together, always using a condom for oral, anal, or vaginal intercourse. I truly, as a parent and a grandparent, would not agree with your allowable actions. And I know there's a lot of parents that don't. Really? Do you really think that the majority of parents agree to this? Well, they don't. And you're going to hear from many of them. And I know you already have. And you will continue through the Catholic, through the Protestant, through the evangelical community. You're going to hear from those that do not agree. And you'll have to make your own decisions. As long as I have lived, these have never been acceptable behaviors, and they have led to continued lives of promiscuity. I counsel with people every day that fall into these categories, that sex becomes a priority in their life, and they lose their lives, they lose in divorces, children get hurt. They end up in continued lives of promiscuity. When those things are practiced, ladies and gentlemen, society, not only society, but you as well, are held responsible for these children's lives. By being part of teaching and promoting this lifestyle, in which history has proven, all you have to do is look at the data of how many divorces there are, whether that's in the church or out of the church. They're still happening. You know why? Because kids' lives are broken. They end up in shambles. They end up in divorce. They end up in separation, and they end up in brokenness. I bring your attention to this clear, transparent bag, in which it will become obvious to each of you that you can see through it. That's called transparency. And only by reading your new human growth development curriculum do parents even find out that you changed the meaning of transparent to actions allowed. Not abstinence, but these horrible, allowable actions. Sorry. Now you see the paper I'm holding up? There's no transparency here. No human eye can see through it. In this demonstration and in my summary, I say unto you, your actions of the OPS administration and the Human Growth Department are not being transparent. You sent that e-blast. Send them an e-blast and tell them what you're teaching them. Tell the parents what you're doing before you do it. Don't do it afterwards. These actions fit the definition of deceit or cover-up, in which parents are deprived the truth of your curriculum until it's too late. And their innocent children have been exposed to these unacceptable actions in the eyes of the majority of the OPS parents and grandparents. I stand up here asking you to search your own conscience and see if you want to be part of what the next generation will become, because allowable actions that are not allowable actions. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Catherine Russell, and after Catherine Russell, Dave Meyer.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Russell, Kathryn Russell. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother.
And
I
can you
used to
give your
be
address,
a OPS teacher, and I am a retired OPS administrator. But my greatest sense of peace comes from being a Christian, and more
Can
specifically,
you please
a
give your
Catholic.
address?
1721 South 108th.
Perfect,
Street.
thanks.
And incidentally, I'm going to say a couple of things that if you have small children watching TV, you might want to put them in another room. In August 17th, school started. August 18th, 1 month later, I received this newsletter. It's a 12-page photo newsletter. It's a magazine entitled Spring of 2016. Now, it came to me September 18th, after the summer and after the school year started. On September 20th, I called the superintendent to say that I was upset that this came out, but he didn't call back. My concern was that I was upset that it came out so late, and I was also very upset that it said nothing about the new curriculum of sex education or the standards. Not a word. There are probably 50 pictures in here, maybe 75 articles, not one on your new curriculum. Then I called and left a message for the Director of Communications, and I asked her two questions. How much did it cost to put this out, and how many homes did it go to? Haven't heard a response from her. Didn't hear a response from her. Then I called your director in charge of equality, or excuse me, the first two people I called, the third person I sent an email to, and that was to the director of equality. He was out of town, he was out of the country. After not hearing from those three people, I then wrote an email to the superintendent and to your school board president. Immediately, I heard from the director of equality. Immediately. He's emailed me 3 times to make sure that he's got the right information. The question I asked him is, I said, we have a lot of parents who want to come in and observe classrooms. So in writing, what is your written policy on parents observing classrooms, in particularly sex education? He got that information to me. After I wrote the email to the superintendent, I then heard from the Director of Communications. Only funny thing is that she, and again, I posed my questions to her in this email to the superintendent and president of the school board. Funny thing is that she answered the wrong questions. She didn't answer the question of how much did this cost to publish and how many homes did it get mailed to. Instead, I'll read to you what she wrote. It kind of sounds like to me like it's an excuse, which I know our teachers don't take a lot of excuses. But it says, I assumed this role approximately 9 months ago. This is a quarterly newsletter, and as I continue to become acclimated to this role, our team continues to assess efficiencies and inefficiencies, making changes. Now, if she's had 9 months in this role, she certainly has had time to get this communication out to families.
You know what? I just want you to be really thoughtful if you're making derogatory comments
1
about
minute.
staff.
That's a point.
I
The
really ask
process
that you be
takes
thoughtful.
time and patience. So time and patience are continuing to roll. Now we're talking about transparency. It saddens me that this has had to come to this. But with Welcome Arms, our Catholic Archdiocese has sent out an e-news
30 seconds.
by Deacon Timothy Smith talking about the district. And it says to parents, opt out of this program, homeschool your children, send them to private schools. What has happened that our school district has had such a huge organization come out and put this? But it's true. As a parent, as a teacher, as a former teacher, I agree with this. As a grandparent, I wouldn't want my children in OPS, the sex education class. And I feel sorry for your teachers. Fourth and fifth
Grade is fine.
That's time.
Thereafter, I feel sorry for your teachers
Okay,
who have to
that's
teach
it.
this.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer, and then after Mr. Meyer, we have Jill Woodward.
Madam Chairman, Superintendent Evans, and the rest of the board and staff. I am Dave Meyer, 2823 South 165th Avenue, product of Omaha Public Schools, from a family of 7 extended teachers within this district and other districts. I come here tonight, first off, I just want to mention, that was pretty awesome to be here to see the Legion of Valor commendations for 2 of those students. I mean, that's something for the district truly to be proud of, and I was glad I was here for that tonight. And Superintendent Evans, my heart goes out to you. My dad is dealt with those issues, and I think you're making a good choice. So, I wanted to just comment briefly relative to some of the things that have been shared on the communication that came out back in September, and just make you aware of a couple points. The research was done extensively, and the origin actually came from 4 hours of session with 3 OPS administrators back in June. So they were involved, and they actually handed off the pacing guide information that was used. As was noted by others, clearly the documentation that was in that email communication, it talked about the written curriculum, but there really has been no discussion or unveiling of some of the online modules or any of the websites that are recommended for access within the curriculum or the videos. And so if the administration has obviously admitted that they're having to pull some items out or research some items, well, what about those other facets of the ETR, Health Smart, and Advocates for Youth? Are those going to be given similar scrutiny? And again, the only items that were addressed in the communication were those that were identified in the Archdiocese Chancellor's letter. As was mentioned, that was just a tip of the iceberg. There are countless other examples. And so who is doing that screening on behalf of the students here within the district? You know, one of the things, just kind of in summary, that it kind of goes to the transparency as well as to the integrity. If you go back to a year ago when we had that forum, and there were commitments made, frequently asked question commitments that the board put before the community on what the administration stands for relative to human growth and development, and the types of lessons that would be taught and the principles and the values that they would be represented on. And, you know, I find it rather, well, it's a sad commentary that you're having to go through. You made choices of curriculums that now you're recognizing that you can't use them in your entirety. So you're having to change a few words or tweak a few things. And again, we're only talking the tip of the iceberg. There's been so much energy that was spent on this by people on all facets of this. You know, you heard from someone, you know, the pastors that have been involved. There were over 65 congregations that were represented by the coalition that spoke a few weeks ago. And that is growing. But the point I want you to understand is if you just would have followed your own guideline, which was we are not going to use any resources that are affiliated with Planned Parenthood. The trail was pretty solid that ETR's Health Smart and the rights, respect, and responsibility by Advocates for Youth are just direct and indirectly just covered with that philosophy. If you would have simply taken the time to understand that
30
and
seconds.
just kicked those two out, this discussion would have ended in January and you wouldn't be having the very issues that you're now having to backpedal on. And so I just encourage you to take the time to do what's right and move forward with the best position in this particular part of your curriculum and pull those two curriculums out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jill Woodward.
Good evening. My name is Jill Woodward, Jillwoodward. I live in the Elkhorn area. However, my tax dollars do come into this community through various outlets. I want to just lead off with, I have multiple educators in my family. I am not one. However, none of them, including my niece, who is 25, and teaching in Africa for the 3rd year. She has taught in Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. None of them are in support of this type of curriculum that is being pushed by the comprehensive education program. I also want to know that I have been, sorry the accent, I'm multilingual, and it came back today. It's been sticking. If you can't understand me, please just say so. I am from the United States. I'm not an immigrant, but total immersion works. I'm proof of that. So I'm sorry. If you can't understand, please say so. I've been privileged to experience all educational institutions in our state, starting with rural country school, town school, public high school, as well as international college prep school, state community colleges, universities, and private. I like to learn. And also, as a parent, my children have experienced Montessori schools, parochial, private, and public. So I have a unique perspective on this, I believe, and I also have been a single parent, not by choice. My husband passed away, and I raised my girls alone, and it got interesting at times, and I was very lucky because my girls are good kids. They kept their nose clean, so to speak, and they were good students. But I have some questions, and I was wondering why the lack of opt-out forms has caused so much confusion. For the last 18 months, the OPS administrators and OPS board members have stated parents who don't like the human growth and development material can opt their children out at any time. Well, we know of parents who could not opt out their children 1 week prior to school, starting because the official opt-out form could not be located by an OPS teacher or school counselor or even in the principal's office. This was never my experience with my children. It was never my experience as a student when I was in undergraduate programs and college prep. I believe that parents have the primary responsibility to educate their children as the parents or the guardians want them educated. So I have 3 questions. Are you accepting the gold opt-out form that thousands of parents have been submitting? Number 2, if you're not accepting the gold opt-out form, has each parent who submitted a gold form to you been mailed your OPS opt-out form and given clear instructions on proper submittal to the appropriate OPS personnel? And to be fair to all OPS parents, especially to single-parent families, and you can get covered up pretty fast as a single parent. I know, been there, done that, thank you. Or those parents who are both working 2 jobs to make ends meet and still raise their children on a level that they would like to provide for them, not just fancy things, but the basics. Why don't you email or snail mail via USPS a copy of your OPS opt-out form to the home of each OPS student? Why do you continue to make opting out so difficult, inconvenient, and burdensome for parents and guardians? I would appreciate an answer to those questions. And I realize everyone is busy, but these are important questions.
1 minute.
Thank you very much, and we'll get you the answer to those questions, Mr. Ray. And Mr. Ray, would you please also provide to each of the speakers this evening the link? I think, if I'm not mistaken, curriculum was just recently posted, the final curriculum, maybe a week or two ago. So if you would get them the link to the actual final curriculum, the information from this summer was not the final curriculum, I believe. So if you could do that, if you could also provide the entire board Ms. Farmer's email to Ms. Russell, as well as the emails that Mr. Loireau sent as well, I'd appreciate that. All right. With that, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Underwood. Are there any abstentions? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne. Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Goding.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to information items. And this evening, we have an exciting information item, our first one, virtual school update. And I think we have some outside guests here, so we want to make sure that that have rejoined us in the room, which is great. So I'm going to let Mr. Evans make a few comments before we get started here. I know this is part of the recognition, right, that you just received along with Mr.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. This is really, obviously from our perspective, a new venture for OPS, but obviously a new venture for the state of Nebraska. And I want to give some special credit to Connie Kanoki, who's worked closely with the State Department as we've moved through this new venture to make sure that they understand the dynamics of a virtual setting, particularly a blended virtual setting, which is what we have here, which is different than what most people think about when they think about a virtual school. So I think you're going to hear that from Wendy as she describes what we're doing. And again, special credit to Mr. Dixon as well as the staff, all the staff, because I've met your teachers too, and I think they're pretty excited about it as well, and how they're working with the young people in a different kind of way. So with that, I'll turn it over to Wendy.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to share a bit about the virtual school thus far. Madam Board President, the Board, and Superintendent Evans, my name is Wendy Lowenstein. I'm the Program Director of Omaha Virtual School, and I think I spoke to you a couple months, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be in this position and to lead such an innovative school in our district. So what I wanted to share with you is just an idea of what a day in the life of a virtual school student looks like. Our students meet once a week for 3 hours in the second floor of the Deuce Space and Metropolitan Community College area of the Deuce Space. We start every morning with an assembly, 10 or so minute assembly, whole group to just kind of talk about some different topics and share a general theme or idea. Recently we've been working on a growth mindset series, and the students have really been enjoying that. Then students leave the assembly to go to their homeroom classroom where they spend the rest of the 3 hours. And you can see there's a picture of the students writing on the wall. All of the walls in that space are dry erase walls. And so students really work through station rotation model of blended learning, where each station they're engaged in different activities that are that tie to all of the content areas. We also do have time during the day to engage students in our coding courses, in which we use the code.org curriculum and creative coding through games and apps curriculum developed by Microsoft. And in addition, I think probably our most popular endeavor during our time during the school day is the Minecraft Education Edition that Microsoft has adopted and is a part of our Microsoft Office package here at Omaha Public Schools. So really the students I believe, are highly engaged, and it's a really fun learning opportunity. I did invite a parent and a student to share just a little bit about their experiences. I have Miss Ashley Muller and Creedon Muller here to share a few things.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and this is Creedon. This is my 4th grader. I have 4 kids in Omaha Virtual School. I have a 7th grader, a 5th grader, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader. I have done a virtual school before in Pennsylvania, so that's kind of what caught my eye at first. But I didn't actually like that virtual school, so I was kind of nervous until I went to the meeting, and Wendy definitely reassured me that it was going to be blended. Our last one was not. And Minecraft got their attention. And my 7th grader wants to be into coding, so it was perfect. So our day at home when we're not there is consisted of all day doing our curriculum. And it's a long day, but we're working on ways to make it better. The kids have learned to work together. We've recorded things that for my troubled reader. And yeah, everybody loves it. My 7th grader comes home every time from Do Space and says it's his favorite time ever. And then Creedon wanted to tell you a little bit about why he likes it. What's your favorite thing about it?
Coding in Minecraft.
And do you like going to Do Space?
Yes. I like going to Do Space.
Got camera shy.
That is okay. So have you had a good time so far?
Do you like it?
Yes.
And have you been able to meet some new folks?
Yes.
Okay, so you've gotten new friends, new learning, and new opportunities.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are so excited to have you in the district. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming and sharing.
And I must say, it's been a pretty amazing experience, school and community experience. Of course, you know, we meet once a week face-to-face for 3 hours. We have a Tuesday group that comes, a Wednesday group, and then a Thursday group. So, of course, at home, as Ashley mentioned, thank you, Ashley and Creedon, the learning coaches, or the parents, we refer to them as learning coaches, because they are highly involved in the facilitation of the online curriculum, and it's very imperative that our teachers are working closely with our learning coaches, and during that time I work with the learning coaches while the students are learning with the teachers. I work with the learning coaches and training them up in some different software that we might be using. We use a lot of Microsoft products, of course, and just helping them build up their capacity with the technology. And I'm really looking forward to moving beyond some initial technology learning opportunities to work on more teaching and learning strategies, literacy strategies for our learning coaches to work with at home. So as I say to a lot of my parents, we've just scratched the surface on the potential of our school, and it's been an amazing experience so far. I wanted to give you an update just on our current enrollment as it stands. We have 173 students, and I broke it down by grade levels here. 60 students in our 6th through 8th grade class. Mr. Tom Gamble is our teacher for the 6th through 8th graders. 38 in the 4th through 5th grade class. Mr. Devin Jamshidi is our teacher for that course. 2nd and 3rd grade, we have 39 students, and that's Mr. Dowling's class. And then kindergarten through 1st grade, we have 36 students, and that's Miss Rogers' class. I also wanted to share just a little bit of information about our opt-in students. The Muller family is the 4 students from Springfield Platteview, and you can see the data there from students from other districts that have opted into Omaha Public Schools for our program. And 117 of those, 117 of 173 are Omaha Public Schools residents. I shared this a little bit the last time I came, and I spoke to it already, but just really wanted to emphasize the importance of the relationships in our community and making sure that our learning coaches are communicating and engaged with our teachers, our staff, and myself in order to make sure that the students are highly engaged and we're regularly monitoring their progress. I will say our student learning advocate, Ms. Beth Seacrest, joined our team on September 1st, and she has been a remarkable resource providing just information, strategies, tips, and tricks to navigate the K-12 learning management system, and has provided an additional support for our families beyond myself and the teachers. Again, just to reemphasize, the student learning advocate, Ms. Seacrest, her role is really to work closely with the families and the students in providing them some resources to be successful in our program. She also is working closely to monitor student progress as they move through the curriculum, and also be kind of the bridge between the teachers and the students and myself to make sure that all of our students' needs are met. Our staff, my teachers, spend a lot of time planning and coordinating those enrichment learning activities. There's a lot to put into 3 hours of instruction. We have to be very strategic in our instruction, our policies, our procedures, to make sure we are taking advantage of every possible instructional minute. In addition, we will be continuing to connect with students with using the Class Connect component, which is similar to Skype, where we can connect with students and families. Right now we're doing regular Monday morning messages to update families and students on what's coming up in the upcoming week and review some things that we went over in the previous week, but we will be increasing that a little bit more as we identify some needs in our community, whether it's literacy groups, math groups, for students who might need additional support. Again, just to review our course offerings, we provide the 4 core courses: language arts, social studies, science, and math. And we have the 2 elective courses, virtual design and innovation, which is where we are leveraging right now mostly Minecraft and getting the students accustomed to utilizing Minecraft for educational purposes. And we have some wonderful access to 3D printers being at the Do Space, so we will be working on having students design some invent some real products that they can print out on the 3D printers and to be able to produce some problem-based learning for them. And then, of course, I know Creedon and Ms. Muller mentioned coding. The introduction to computer programming has been a really popular course for us as well. So what's next? Really, our goal is to expand into this high school and looking at possibly expanding to 9th grade or 9th through 10th grade next year. Really acknowledging that offering high school courses in accordance to Rule 10 and the depth of courses that we need to provide and the staffing that go along with that. I realize this is going to be a big undertaking. My biggest emphasis will be trying to make sure that we have a place for our current 8th graders to go and providing at least the 9th grade course for next year. Also, we want to continue to collaborate with Ms. Kanoki and Nebraska Department of Education to continue to work together to make sure that our program is staying in compliance with the state, and then also hopefully making some leeway with some legislation and changes to make our school an option for more students. And also when we do expand to high school, we really want to look at some high technology pathways and making sure that we're leveraging our community partners with Metropolitan Community College and even nearby University of Nebraska Omaha to make sure that we're providing a clear pathway for our students in our virtual school program. So, any questions?
Does anyone have any questions regarding the virtual school program? Well, I appreciate the update, and I know we all do, just on understanding the number of students and where they come from, and being able to hear a little bit about what's interesting to the students themselves. So thank you so much for giving us an update, and we look forward to hearing about where you're at the end of the year and staying apprised of the expansion and whatever that looks like, because I know there's board members who have really spoken favorably about the high school portion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me back.
Thank you so much. All right, with that, we will move on to the next information item. And I'm not sure, whoops, is it Mr. Schmidt-Bonny that's presenting? And Mr. Ray, did you add to our, whoops. You added a component, correct? To the Aspire map?
I just added all those Aspire data attachments.
Oh, there were a lot. So I asked Mr. Ray today if there was any data specific on Aspire. So he and Mr. Schmidt-Bonney added that. I know you may not have seen it all yet, but it's specific to the high schools, correct? And I haven't looked at all of it myself, but I thought it was important that we at least see the data out there and have an understanding of what you're going to talk to us about.
Absolutely.
All right.
And to that point, just to summarize those materials attached to the presentation, you have district level as well as school level reports at the board's request. Those 3 reports that are provided for the school level include kind of the school overview and predicted ACT outcomes, as well as that information broken down across demographic groups. And finally, kind of a basic scorecard for the school on some areas of concentration and suggestions for improvement. So those materials are attached, and tonight we have quite the team here to help out and to answer questions should questions arise. This is a joint presentation between our staff and those in curriculum and instruction support. I'm introduce my team, who I have here with me. We have Miss Melissa Schroeder, if you raise your hand, who is a research administrator and our district assessment coordinator. Miss Janet Zom, who is also a research administrator and heads the assessment steering committee. And the newest member of our team, a phenomenal ADR from Northwest currently, Miss Allie Wilkinson. We also have staff available from curriculum who will talk a little bit about data use as well. One common point across both of these assessments, there's actually a couple. They are both NRTs, and that's a norm reference test that have been brought to our district to meet Rule 10 requirements for having a norm reference test at every grade level. These both came into our district during the 14-15 school year, and both replaced legacy assessments that were being phased out. Specifically, MAP replaced CAT at the grade 2 and grade 7 level, fulfilling our NRT requirement for elementary and middle school. And Aspire replaced Plan and Explore, which was a Pearson product prior to ACT purchasing it and transitioning to Aspire. And that is given at 10th grade, Aspire was. Just very quickly, just to talk a little higher altitude about some assessment information. We'll speak first about the different assessment types. And you've heard about this before, so I'll be brief. And I don't want these to come across as being very distinct types. They are forms of assessment, but there is some overlap across them, and you will find that many assessments will give you some information at most of these levels. Specifically, there are formative assessments, and these are very short-term assessments meant to guide lessons and reteaching activities. They're given at the classroom level, where they're also developed generally. And they're much less formal. These are things you probably have interacted with in classrooms. It includes cold calls, where the teacher will call on a student who may or may not appear to be paying attention and ask them a question about the lesson. You'll also have exit tickets and things of that nature, where the teacher asks for some produce of knowledge to show that learning has occurred during that day and to provide that information on their way out of class. And kind of a tangential related one that I particularly like is my favorite no, where teachers identify their favorite miss from a student who tried to do the exit ticket. It can either be funny or one that's really close, an answer that's really close that then they can use as an activity to readdress a topic to expand learning. Moving to the next type, we have interim and summatives. Interim and summatives being where we focus most of our attention for district level assessments. Interim is a medium-term assessment given much less frequently than you would a formative. It identifies gaps in learning or instruction. It's really meant to inform the classroom, grade, and higher levels. Like I said, it's given much less frequently than you would give a formative assessment. It provides a little higher level data. Summative assessments are given long-term. You generally only do that perhaps once a year, and that would be like our NISA and things of that nature. It compares students to standards or norms to give you an idea of how they're progressing or meeting standards or expectations, and it identifies strengths and weaknesses of subject-level curriculum and instruction. talking through a little bit about how we identify the need for an assessment and ultimately select one. It starts with many conversations, both at the district level and working with our colleagues who utilize assessment data to identify needs that they have, as well as then all the way down to the classroom level and speaking to teachers and from our excellent ADRs who bring their observations to our ADR meetings, which I'll speak a little bit more on in a little bit later in this presentation. And following those many conversations and our solid, ever-expanding knowledge of where assessments are going kind of writ large as an assessment marketplace and keeping abreast of what developments are coming out of that, we take all that information and convene an assessment steering committee where we determine how widely spread those perceptions we've heard through numerous conversations are, as well as identifying the perceived needs of those auspices, and the members of the committee are made up of district staff, schools leadership, as well as teachers and other staff within the schools. And so, having convened the assessment steering through a number of activities and discussions, we identify assessments we'd like to further pursue and potentially pilot. The goal of assessment steering activities is to identify and to provide a balanced assessment system that provides information, especially at those interim and summative levels, for use across a number of stakeholding groups, and ensuring that the data provided meets all of those individuals' needs. Additionally, we do want to meet state and federal requirements, so that is certainly something we keep in mind when reviewing our options for assessment. Looking at once we have identified an assessment, we'll talk a little bit about assessment proctoring, report access, and report comprehension, the work our office undertakes. And here I'll speak a little bit about some of my heroes, our academic data reps. These are really individuals on our front line out there, if you will, in elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. We have just over 100 of them. Some schools have more than one. It is a role, not a job, and so you have many individuals in many different jobs bringing their skill sets to bear in this way. It includes SSLs, IFs, some principals even, assistant principals, things of that nature. And these are kind of your data expert, if you will, your assessment expert in the school building, that source of information. We operate in a train-the-trainer model, so we meet monthly with our ADRs, provide them up-to-date training that's generally in alignment with what they're going to be doing with assessment, be it proctoring or accessing reports. We also get information from them about what's going on in schools so we can modify our delivery models and to better meet the needs of our schools through their observation. The ADR is a dynamic role, but much of what we ask of them is to deploy resources and tools. These include dashboards, data books, data workbooks, which take the data from the data books and help unpack it and show ways to view and understand that data, as well as creating data walls and helping to solve problems within that building. Having identified that it is a real challenge for ADRs to kind of carry that banner all by themselves within schools, we have expanded our training opportunities. We have MAP institutes that are done during the school day as well as evening and weekends to meet all needs, as well as specific training for REACH schools. A little more on that later as we've expanded and modified some things in our REACH schools. And these trainings are open to all staff, district staff, teaching staff, principals, etc. And we do get attendance from across those many groups. Okay, first the first assessment I'll talk about is ACT Aspire. As I said, this replaced the Plan and Explore assessment. It was brought here as a norm reference test and was active within this district for 2014-15 and 15-16. It is an assessment of college and career readiness, and after some difficulty in rollout, it was the first 2 years of that assessment. We utilized it here in the district, and school staff will tell you that the logistics around that paper and pencil measure were challenging. We didn't get the materials until near the assessment time due to that being the first year of the assessment. And so there were some challenges with that. And we had planned to transition this year to ACT proper, if you will, but the state beat us to the punch to a certain degree. And some of the things we liked about the regular ACT assessment, which having been fortunate enough to sit on the RFP that selected that as our state assessment, we're happy to see that it still includes the solid ACT metrics that we've come to rely on, as well as now including work key certifications that show from that bronze to platinum level how prepared our students are for the careers of their interest. To speak a little bit about how, though this assessment has transitioned out of the district, we are still utilizing the data. That data has been provided to schools for their ACT preparations. They've received both years of data, those 3 reports that you'll see is attached to this board presentation, as well as PDFs of individual student level results. Now transitioning to NWEA MAP, NWEA being the company, MAP being the product. As with our Aspire transition, we brought this into the district in 14-15 to fulfill our NRT requirements. It is given at grades 2 and 7 at that time to fulfill those requirements for elementary and middle school. The data it provides are RIT scores. This is a standardized unit of measure, which is to say the student scores, let's say, a 75 at first grade. That means the same as if they would just score 75 at the 3rd grade. So it is for comparisons both across and within grade levels, focusing especially on growth. It is an adaptive assessment, which some of you may be familiar with, and what that does is it takes the student's accuracy or miss on an item and adjusts the assessment up or down to meet that student's needs, and slowly ranges in on specifically where that student is performing. And so that's definitely an interesting piece of it. It also provides instructional data of a sort that our teachers aren't as familiar with. It's very different necessarily than just grade standard level data. It meets the student where they are through that adaptive nature and identifies the opportunities for learning that they exhibit regardless of whether that's on or off grade level. So that's a very useful piece. It tells you specifically through use of the learning continuum what that student is ready to learn next. And so it's very useful in a number of activities, including grouping of students and for differentiation of instruction. It also provides norm reference data comparing our students to similar students in other districts. And lastly, for the central office and all those else who are interested, it does provide predictions for both NISA and ACT. Talking quickly of how we've expanded our use of MAP in the last several years, you've likely have heard me speak of it before in numerous other presentations. We have done some pilots. Those first pilots started at Wakanda. In 14-15, we tried utilizing MAP as a K-6 solution within that building, which was met with some apprehension, especially for those youngest learners, but after a little bit of trial and error, they did find great success with it, even in 14-15. We also then in 15-16 piloted at the middle school level while continuing the pilot at Wakanda, and expanded our pilot of MAP to Northwest as well to see how it performed at the high school level. And so through those opportunities and those pilots, we landed on some expansions that occurred this year. Pilots were extended to look at the effectiveness of this tool as a single assessment solution, meeting all school needs at our REACH schools, Druid Hill, as well as Indian Hill. And they are utilizing this assessment this year, grades K through 6. Also in 15-16, we started an evaluation of our Spalding reading program at Sherman, and that has continued this year. This year as well, we expanded to all grades within the middle level the use of MAP. That streamlined their assessments. They used 2 assessments prior, and now they're down to 1. Additionally, we expanded to high school to meet that critical transition going from middle school to high school. It also supports research conducted by Marzano that identifies the criticality of core course success within that 9th grade year, and our hope is that it can that data can really be leveraged to meet student needs and ensure core course success. Looking to the future and the work of the Assessment Steering Committee this year, we'll certainly still consider expansions of MAP to include potentially end of unit or course assessments at the 10th grade level. And we're also still continuing to review our needs at all other levels and opportunities for MAP there as well. Having stated kind of those pieces, I'll now pass it over to our colleagues in curriculum and instruction support to talk a little bit about data use.
Thanks, Mr. Schmidt-Vani. I'll just cover the last slide rather quickly. We compile the data, we look at it, we make decisions based on that, and then we implement instructional strategies. We have about 22 different things we do, and the one we highlighted at the bottom was our Best Instructional Practices Handbook, which we just updated, 3rd year in a row. And if you'd like that, we can provide a copy. And if you're interested, I can go through any of those instructional strategies we've put in place.
Okay. Are you back up?
We're done.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay, so questions from the board? I'll let Ms. Williams, I think, has the comment or question.
Well, so I wasn't going to talk about work a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about work. And so, as a non-certified person, I know more about acuity than any person should know. And so, as we're looking at aligning with the district and looking at MAP, I'm eager to see. Kind of had some feedback from teachers. I've got to watch a test, an assessment. So I'm really excited to see what the MAP testing looks like as we roll it out, and also to get your insight, Dr. Kerberg, Melissa's as well. But it just seems like from what I've been able to see, even with students, they seem much more engaged, and it was a second grade class compared to seeing them do acuity a couple years ago. And so it just seems like it's, it is more individualized, but it's a great way for the teachers in that classroom to really talk about the same curriculum at grade level, but each student has that opportunity to progress in their own way, which it's really nice to see those students feel engaged and they feel hopeful, like, oh, wow, we can get this now. So I'm really excited to see how this really rolls out a little bit more and have great, deep conversation around the MAP.
I couldn't agree more. And I must share an anecdote because I heard it from two different sources at two different times. One came from a kindergarten teacher who said they had to pull the kids out of the lab because they wanted to continue to take an assessment. I mean, it's unheard of. As well as a ninth grade teacher, ninth grade student, in fact, a principal shared with me who had a similar experience, who wanted to try to beat their score and wanted to take it again. So the fact that students are engaged to that level with a test and assessment is amazing. I would agree.
So is MAP done on the computer, or is it paper and pencil?
That's correct. Given its adaptive nature, it has to be done on computer. That allows it to, if you get a question right, give you a little bit harder one, and wrong, get a little easier one. And that's one of the unique bits, I would say, is it really, for the first time I'm hearing, has challenged some of our really high-ability students who have never really gotten an item or more than one item that really was incredibly difficult for these really, really high-level students. And they're getting some really challenging items, and in many instances, it takes the high-ability student much longer to complete the assessment than it would a student who has more struggles or challenges.
So what's the time frame? Because obviously we don't have enough computers for everybody to sit down and take it all in one sitting. So I know that you've got middle school and high school are having it expanded this year. Is it being done over a period of time, and different kids are coming in, or?
Absolutely. We do provide an assessment window at all levels for our assessments to meet the school's needs, to allow them to get students into computer labs as the space is available without completely disrupting instruction. So certainly that is something we're mindful of. The data for many intents and purposes is available once assessment is concluded, but we close the window, and that's when district data becomes available for all as well. So certainly, yeah, we do work within those windows to make sure it meets schools' needs.
So I'm always curious, when you get the MAP data back, so I'm curious to know, for instance, at the high school level at Northwest, ninth graders took it, you get the data back, and it should drive, it should drive backwards, but it should also drive forwards, what you're doing. So what is happening with, for instance, the ninth grade data? I'm just curious.
Currently, I should mention, they are wrapping up assessments right now, so they're ready to get after that data, but it isn't available until a little bit later on this week when the window closes.
But I bet they have plans. I hope they have plans.
Sir, please. Thank you.
One of the really nice pieces about the MAP assessment, as soon as the student finishes the test, they get feedback immediately. So they're given an overall score, and for instance, in the math, they're broken down to those 4 categories so they can see strengths and weaknesses right away. To be able to tell students that they have strengths in certain areas, even if they're below grade level, they still have strengths in areas, has been really important for students. And it's nice for them to see they're more engaged because they're starting to get questions right. The test is designed to give about 50% challenging questions, so below and above. So it really re-engages students. If it was just above their head, they can click C. This test engages them and really finds their level. so the immediate feedback, and then the MAP system works for goal setting, so we can set goals within students as soon as they take that first assessment. They can set goals, and then the district has the ability, schools can option in to take it 3 times a year. So we see growth from the beginning of the year to the winter assessment and winter to the end. And that's what we talk about. No matter what level you're at, we want to see growth. And so all those measures are in place, and it gives teachers so much more access to the data that they can share with students. So I think that it really has started well, and so that the plans for how to use that and give that feedback to student, not just assessment that they take and they get the results 6 months, 9 months later as a NISA sometimes, but they really do get immediate feedback, and that can drive teachers' instruction because they know what each student needs to focus on.
And through that learning continuum, it gives very explicit information on where that student's ready to progress.
Ms. Williams.
Just another point on that, there's 2 things that I didn't mention. One, to be able to watch this, and I know I'm more focused on elementary because I see that as we get this to the elementary schools, it will help our middle and high schools have better achievement. I really like the fact that they had the opportunity to go and do a practice test so that they can get familiar with it, and I don't recall them having that opportunity with Acuity. And then the second thing I noticed in my observation was the person proctoring the exam can monitor those students from wherever they are. However, if you have that student that's just clicking answers, it's very well laid out, and so it just gives you some additional things that you can do. That whoever's proctoring the test can stop that. They can touch base with the student, kind of see where they are. Why are they finishing so fast? There's so many more technological advances with this system that I think will really help support achievement in our district moving forward as this expands. So just wanted to give that insight how I've kind of experienced it this far.
I agree. It's a powerful, very functional program.
Yes.
I think what I like about it is the fact that it's norm referenced. I know years ago when I looked at some of the Acuity information, Acuity is written based on your state. And it doesn't really tell you how your student is doing at a national level and how they're competing and what they're learning and where they should be. And so for me, that always was kind of a bothersome thing about the Acuity portion, is if I know it's already guided to a certain state, then I know that we're missing potentially things that maybe somebody else was able to see. I want to go back to the item that says, I think, district current progress. Is that November 2015? So I guess what I'm curious to know, and I remember when we were going through the strategic plan and discussions that we had about this sort of data. So when we look here, we see if our students, and it says close in English, and then where they need support, and the predictor of where that group of students, where we'll potentially end up if everyone takes the ACT in the spring. So I have a number of questions around what are our schools doing to analyze the students who haven't ever taken the ACT? So they haven't ever done it, and this will be a first time for them. Clearly, the Aspire gives them a little bit of a window, but not the full lengthy process. And with that, are we at all looking at students who took a support class? Because I know some of the high schools are offering classes during the day. Some of them are offering classes, that are supplemental after school. Are we looking at how those students are doing compared to how other students are doing, and what drivers are happening there? And is there the opportunity for, say, in FACS class, which is freshman year, to just take a practice test, or is there an opportunity somewhere during the school year to take the test? I'm quite concerned about the kids who have never taken it, and yet I know there's high ability kids who have never taken it. I'm confident they'll do just fine. But for kids who might be a little scared about it, you'd hate for them to go in April, I think, for the NISA portion of that test.
I'll jump in on this. Mrs. Goddings identified a key issue for us. 63% of our kids took ACT last year, which means we've got a good number who didn't. So just to run through some of the answers to the questions, we currently have at every high school a summer test prep for ACT in summer school. Now, not every student takes it, but we're encouraging those students who need to take it to be in it. A lot of young people have other summer test preps they do that mom or dad may afford. However, what really matters with the ACT, and you hear it from ACT, having the kids in the right core sequence. You have to be in the right courses to have the content to master ACT. So going back then and working with counselors, and they're very involved in this through a program we have called Naviance, to make sure that our kids are getting in the right courses to have mastery of the content to take it. But even then, not all students are in those college prep courses. So now what we're doing is we're working with IMS, we're working with research. We've got 2 high school principals on our committee. And you have to remember, we didn't know until 3.5 weeks ago the state board said it's going to be ACT. They were saying AccuPlacer, SAT. We did not know. Now that we know that, we're looking at what do we have within our district we can use. Here's the good news. We already pay for Naviance. It's a career and college preparatory program that the counselors have that's online. Within Naviance, there's 6 ACT pre-tests that can be given by core teachers. So we've been working with Rob Dixon to roster that out and then look at how do we train our core teachers, math or reading or English language arts, to give that in those classes. Because we need our kids to take that in their classes for the test prep. There's also a longer one that's diagnostic. We're thinking the time might be right, and we're still in progress. We haven't given this back to our high school principals to think about our juniors next fall, in the early fall, August, September, taking a pre-ACT test. So this year we're fortunate. You just heard Scott say, we've got Aspire data on this year's juniors when they were sophomores. We'll never have that again. That test is gone. We're using other tools. So we can use this year's Aspire data. Next year, our juniors will need to take that pre-ACT in the fall so we can be diagnostic. But the bigger picture, getting the kids in the core curriculum, using our new grading dashboard to get higher course success, lower course failures, more mastery of the core content. And that's why we talk a lot about guaranteed and viable curriculum. And I will just toss a quick thanks to this board. You have purchased new math. You have purchased new science materials. We're looking this year at English language arts. Do you know what that means? Our core curriculum is updated. Our pacing guides, our course guides. Our teachers are teaching the things that are going to align not just with Nebraska state standards, but the ACT requirements. So it's a pretty big deal what's been accomplished here over the last several years in terms of getting our curriculum up to speed and the core classes up to speed. We have finished that curriculum audit several years ago. We made huge changes since then so that we have that alignment, as well as pacing guides, which indicate what a teacher's and what a teacher teaches it and when they teach it. And then the last thing I'll mention is we do have, because Mrs. Godding asked, do we have any high schools just doing sections of ACT prep? And yes, we do. We have, Bryan has 2 sections, Burke has 2 sections, Northwest has 2 sections, South has 14 sections. Yeah. But I will tell you that's great if the kids are in the core classes. Test prep could bump you 2-3 points, but if you haven't taken physics or biology or whatever the course is, that won't help you that significantly in the overall ACT score. Last year our ACT score was right at 19. And of course, there'll be a change because now we'll go from 63% of our kids. State requirement is 95% of all students participate. So we're making a huge jump from 63 to 95% or greater. And that will, of course, mean some young people who may not be college bound are now taking a college bound test. So that could change our results. We have to be prepared for that. The good news is when Lincoln Public Schools did this, They found 200, almost 300 students when they went 100% of the kids at junior year taking ACT, changed their mind and went to a 4-year program of study. Instead of some of them were thinking about the world of work or a 2-year community college. And we certainly want our kids going to community college, but there could be some unintended benefits too. I hope that covered most of your questions.
No, I think that's great, and I just hope that we're also using that data to drive backwards to the middle school and make sure that we're preparing our students so that when they get to high school, they are in those proper courses that will help them. Because I think that's where sometimes there's that little bit of gap, and we're seeing great results at elementary, and so we should continue to see those kids filter into our middle schools and doing great. But what can we do to drive some of that back into the middle school and inform instruction, I guess, is what I'm wanting to make sure we do. Other questions? So the Aspire will not, and that's where you're going to add the map at 9th grade?
Correct. Yeah, we've added map at 9th grade. We were going to do ACT proper, if you will, just regular ACT this year, but like I said, the state beat us to it, so there will be no Aspire this year.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, well, I would encourage, I know there's a lot of reports out there to look at, but if board members look and have additional questions for either Dr. Kerberg or Mr. Schmidt-Bonney related to all those supplemental that were added this afternoon, I would encourage you to get those questions to Mr. Ray, as always. So thank you so much for presenting this to us, and we'll be seeing the map results in November, is that right?
That's correct.
You're going to get
We
us
have
that?
You got it. A full suite of our assessment results coming back to you in November.
So we'll have a big meeting of assessment results. All right.
A lot of good news.
Okay, well, thank you so much. With that, we're going to move on to J2A, Policy 2300, Legal Services, first reading. And do you want to talk about that, Mr. Ray?
Sure. This is a change to 2300, which you've already approved last year with the redaction of reference to the Omaha Schools retirement system.
If you remember, legislation allows for them to have their own legal counsel, which changes our policy. So does anyone have any questions on this policy change that we just need to get updated? Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion.
So move.
And a second?
Second.
I
I think that's a double second.
That was, who got it first?
Yolanda and Lacey. I'll give it to Yolanda.
Okay,
Give it
so
to
Mr.
Yolanda.
Snow had the motion and Ms. Merrick had the second to recommend or to accept the changes to Policy 2300, Legal Services, to update to reflect statutory changes made to the Omaha Schools Employees Retirement System, OSERS. Are there any questions on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Scanlon. Aye. Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne. Williams.
Aye.
Fay. Goding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Ms. Williams.
I move that the Board of Education go into close. Oh, we do have a receipt of reports, so.
Okay, I would draw your attention to, I am so sorry, Dr. Turnquist has provided us the Purchasing Division Cost Savings Report, and so I would encourage everyone to take a look at that and recognize the significant cost savings that the district has, staff, clearly, purchasing staff has been able to provide. So I encourage everyone to look at that. Okay, with that, Ms. Williams.
Now, are you ready? I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Connie Kanoki, and legal counsel, pending litigation, negotiations, legal advice, and real estate.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Merica. Roll call, please.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood. Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne. Williams.
Aye.
Fay. Gadding,
Aye.
America,
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Connie Kanoki, and legal counsel pending litigation, negotiations, legal advice, and real estate. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 8:48 p.m.